Saturday was the Bills-Dolphins primetime game. Sunday was the Giants and Commanders on primetime. And I want to watch this in to win. I'm not going to lie. I wanted them to win.
I bet you did.
I like the Taylor Heineke story. The Giants, I'm still not much of a believer in them, but I will say, after seeing their pass rush be healthy for the first time together this year, and Azeez, Leonard Williams, Dexter Lawrence, and Kayvon Thibodeaux, this is a scary pass rush. I don't think any team wants to match up with this pass rush in the playoffs.
I can't say he locked in defensive rookie of the year, especially with the way that Sauce.
Yeah, Sauce has that pretty much locked.
He does.
I'll be honest, Sauce is probably the best corner in football.
I still would take PS2 personally. I feel like PS2 plays a little bit more man-to-man.
He does, for sure. Yeah, Sauce is mostly zone, but that's
is Sauce better than JC?
Yes.
JC.
Warren?
Oh, yeah.
Because JC plays a lot of man also.
He does. Well, yes. I mean, it's a zone defense play.
I think Sauce, even in man, shuts down. He's been in
man.
No.
Oh, listen, I'm not trying to minimize what Sauce has been doing. Sauce has been undoubtedly a top 5 corner in the league. If you want to say he's number 1, hey, I mean, you have your arguments. Yeah. But PS2 is playing man-to-man almost what seems every play.
Yeah, now the Jets run mostly zone.
He's led up less than 35 yards, I think, 11 times this year. PS2 is a different breed.
He's a dog.
The Giants beat the Commanders 20-12. They're now 8-5-1, while Washington dropped to 7-6-1. And this was a big-time game because this basically decided a wild card spot. I think whoever won this game was going to get in the playoffs, and whoever lost is not. I have a tough time seeing Washington now getting into the playoffs, given the schedule they have going forward. But the biggest storyline of the game is that it ended in controversy.
Not one,
penalty,
but 2 plays.
Penalty on
Ugly.
Terry McLaurin because he wasn't lined up the right way. It wiped off a Brian Robinson touchdown, who was my running back during the draft process.
Last 2 weeks, he's been a stud. He's been a stud.
And the non-call on Curtis Samuel on 4th down, the DPI non-call. I guess I just want to ask you guys if you thought that these calls were the right calls. If you think Washington should have gotten that touchdown or they should have gotten that call on 4th down, what are your guys' thoughts on that?
Listen, I've been a Giants supporter all season, and it's gotten to the point where I was concerned about this roster because of the injuries. I didn't know if it was surmountable. The momentum that Washington has had on their side, it seemed written in the stars that Washington would win this game and put themselves to lock themselves up into playoff contention. Now, to talk about the ending of that game, watching that Terry film back is really, really, it's tough to sit with. He checks not once. He checks twice to see if he's good, and without even any hesitation, once the play starts, the ref throws the flag. That really just didn't sit right with me. And again, I wanted the Giants to win, right? I'm not upset that they won, but there's no doubt in my mind that those are two plays that I'm looking at, and the refs messed up. That was obvious pass interference. He is hugging him well before the ball is anywhere near Curtis Samuel. I mean, the refs had to do better, man. The refs really were not good all weekend long, and this is just an exclamation point to that statement.
Yeah.
There's not much else to say.
It's hard when you have 100 plays plus of football in one game.
That's for sure.
And you point it down to 1 or 2 plays. Like, that's even when, like, you drop a touchdown with no time remaining or miss a game-winning shot in basketball. Like, it's very easy to blame that one player, that one play, that one moment and say, well, if this happened, we would have won. But it really did felt like if this moment happened, they would have won, right? I mean, this is when you have people who go on the internet and say, you have to automate everything. No referees, no human interaction, all computer.
Lose me.
But that's also when I sit there and I'm like, when you have the playoffs on the line, when you have jobs on the line, right? When you have people, you're really like you have bonuses involved, incentives involved for some coaches, their jobs involved on the line, and it comes down to a missed play by a referee. That's what, when I sit there and I'm like, you know what? Maybe it's not the worst thing in the world to have more reviews, have more automation. I mean, the Terry flag, that you can't even do with a computer or whatever, right? Because he is asking the referee, saying, am I good? The referee says yes. How do you throw a flag? I've never seen that in my life of watching football. I would be irate. I would be pissed off. And then I don't know if it's the next play or 2 plays later or whatever. That is that one play where you look at, this was last year, you could review that, and that would have been a clear DPI. They would have got the ball 1st and goal on the 1 yard line with 4 chances to score a touchdown. who knows what ends up happening, but odds are they probably get in the end zone there, right? We saw them do it just a couple plays before with Brian Robinson. So it is hard when you have all of those plays, 100-plus plays in a football game, to really pin in on one moment. But I do see where Washington fans come from. If I was a Washington fan, I would be so pissed off right now.
Are you kidding me?
Oh my! Like, I'm thinking about all these Jets game where I think a couple calls don't go our way. Now we have on prime time the last play, the game-winning play, doesn't go our way. I mean, Washington fans have every right to be pissed off because this was a game. I mean, them and the Giants. To be fair, last year the Giants got away, or excuse me, they got away with one. With the whole offsides on the game-winning field goal or whatever, which gave them the win. So, in a way, I guess it goes both ways. But this felt like a very big swing because we saw before the game. It was, if you win this game, you have a 95% chance to go to the playoffs. If you lose, it's like a 33% chance, right? It is basically win or go home at this point. You're going to need a lot more else to happen. Whoever is the loser of this game obviously ended up being Washington. I do think for the Giants, obviously take the win, right? You're probably going to the playoffs, which is huge. Likely a first-round exit. I mean, wherever they go, if they play San Fran, Minnesota, whoever. I mean, I think they're at least a touchdown underdog. I think San Fran maybe even 9-10 points if they go on the road. I think it'd be one of the bigger underdog stories in terms of playoff matchups over the last few seasons. But overall, you have to be happy as a Giants fan. I think you have, because even though, I mean, it's easy to sit here and say, if I was a Giants fan, like, I would have liked another top 10 pick, right? I would have liked to be able to get another superstar player, whether it's on, defense, offense, whatever.
Defense.
Or
offense. I mean,
sure,
receiver.
Wide receiver.
They went rounds 1 through 7 receiver. I'm not mad.
So it's easy for me as like just trying to be a big brain, like, oh, get another draft pick and really try to, build this team up. But I think making the playoffs, it just shows you have the right head coach. It shows you could win these type of games. They've been doing it really all season. I know they went on, a little 3-4 game losing streak, had a tie in there or whatever. But overall, you have to be happy with what Daboll's done. It does, become a little more complicated at the quarterback position because it is the chicken or the egg. Is Daniel Jones not putting up big numbers because there's no receivers, or is Daniel Jones not putting up big numbers because he's just not a great quarterback?
I mean, tell me.
It's a situation that's hard. I wish I didn't have to pay him. I wish I should
just give him the 5th year.
I wish I didn't have to make the decision today.
They folded.
Yeah, they probably did. That 5th year option would have been in that $20-25 million range, which is going to be probably what
less
he ends
than
up
what
doing.
he's going to get.
Yeah, maybe we'll see what that contract ends up being. But overall, the officiating cost Washington the game. It cost them a chance at the playoffs. It's unfortunate, but that's sports, I guess, right?
Really want to highlight one thing. Did you guys see Saquon take that dude's soul? Dude said, dude. Bro went to tackle him, just completely touched earth, and Saquon got the first down. Saquon, he was so damn good.
I think Daniel Jones is a good quarterback, and he deserves a deal in New York.
I agree.
I don't think anything lucrative. I think
Agreed.
A reasonable amount.
Mm-hmm.
But you put receivers around Daniel Jones, you have a good defense, you can win with Daniel Jones. I think you can win with him. And he's shown it this year, you can win with him. The Terry McLaurin penalty, I didn't have that big of an issue with the call because he wasn't lined up to the line of scrimmage. And his story didn't line up to me because he did ask the ref if he was good, and then the ref made a hand signal. He didn't do like a thumbs up, or he just went like this. So I'm interpreting that as maybe move up a little bit more, and McLaurin moved up like a centimeter, an inch more.
Mm-hmm.
And they called the flag because the line of scrimmage was at the half-yard line, and he was back at the 1.5-yard line. So, I understand, like, it's a little discrepancy, but, it is the rules. Terry McLaurin, once he scooted up more, he didn't look back at the referee to see if it was good. The ball was just snapped. And then the ref,
but he
threw
checked
the flag.
twice.
He checked once. He looked over once, went like
but
this.
You see him go like this,
and
look down.
Then
you see him go like this again.
And then he moved up, and then he was like this. The reason I had issue with the call is because no matter if McLaurin lined up where he lined up or he lined up in the line of scrimmage, it did not affect the play. I mean, it had no implication on the play whatsoever. It was a run up the middle. McLaurin was out of the play. He wasn't even blocking anybody. That was my issue with it. I do agree the 4th down play was a DPI, but ultimately the Commanders lost this game because their offense was inconsistent. Scott Turner didn't do a good job at putting his best playmaker on the field that night in Brian Robinson in more positions to be successful. He was. Brian Robinson was running the heck out of the football all night long.
Terry.
In the
time?
Terry.
I mean, I guess so, but I'm talking about just from that individual game. Jahan Dotson made some big time plays too.
Jahan is another one, bro. He is like that.
But Brian Robinson got 4 carries in the second half. He had 8 in the first half. 12 total.
I was going to say 12 for 80, 81, something like that.
Yeah, he was averaging 7.4 yards per carry. I mean, he was damn near getting a first down every time he carried the ball, and you didn't keep giving him the ball. That I had issue with. And then it's just costly turnovers. The Heineke fumble when they were in the red zone really cost them because that made it you could have made it a 2-point game at that point, and you only need a field goal. You only need a defensive stop. But there were some splash plays in there, the throw to Dotson. But overall, their offense was inconsistent, and I think that's also in large part to the Giants' pass rush. The first time getting these 4 guys playing together, but it's just Kayvon Thibodeaux. It was the Kayvon Thibodeaux show.
Those splashes Dexter in there for sure.
You get a strip sack, you take it in for a touchdown. Getting a defensive touchdown in any game is huge, but this one, it was huge because these are 2 offenses that are going to struggle to move the ball consistently. And then just the tackles for loss he had 3 tackles for loss. He had 12 tackles total. He had 1 touchdown-saving tackle when Heineke was running towards the pylon, and Kayvon stopped him.
He was in coverage, right? Like, it made no sense that he was even in that play.
Another great play where he got faked out. It might have been like an RPO or something, and he bit hard and still ran all the way back and caught up with whoever was rushing the ball and tackled him.
I thought that it's easy for me to say this because I'm not looking at Kayvon right in the face and he's about to tackle me. But I thought, if Taylor Heineke probably fights for a yard or 2, he could probably get into the end zone. I wouldn't want to
fight for a yard.
But I understand why he just fell down. But playoff time, do or die, I don't know. I feel like a quarterback makes that play right there to just try to get into the end zone.
It's not the 90s anymore.
But I do understand it. And just having those 4 guys made the Giants shift their defensive game plan. Wink Martindale, he only blitzed on 35% of his dropbacks, which is
surprising.
The second lowest mark of the season for them. And they just, they did that because their front 4 can get pressure. They don't need extra bodies to generate pressure. And now you help out your secondary because you don't have a Dorie Jackson. You don't have Xavier McKinney. So now you're able to drop more guys into coverages. It makes these passing windows very thin. And then the Giants offensively do what they usually do. They're inconsistent for the majority of the game, but they get a couple drives going with Saquon, Daniel Jones making some nice plays. I thought that Isaiah Hodgins and Richie James made some
plays.
Sure. Yeah, without a doubt.
They made some big-time catches.
I can't wait till I don't see Darius Slayton be a wide receiver 1. But
Hour.
Huh?
Hour?
No, I didn't say that. Just a wide receiver 1.
Hour,
no.
My bad.
And shout out to the G-men, though.
I know. That's why I had to stop you.
Love my guys. That being said, Richie James looked good. He looked good. He looked shifty. Very. I was shocked.
He had missed the last couple of weeks.
Yeah, he was about to get cut. I mean, the fan base wanted him cut after he dropped a punt. He muffed
that wasn't great. That wasn't great.
But he's bounced back in a huge way. But overall, this was a great win for the Giants, and this basically clinched them a playoff spot. There's 3 scenarios for them to get into the playoffs this upcoming week to clinch it. If they win and Detroit loses at Carolina, plus Seattle lost at KC. So they need a win and Detroit and Seattle loss.
I want them to clinch this week.
Or Giants win, Detroit loss at Carolina, and Washington loss at San Francisco. Or Giants win, Seattle loss at KC, and Washington loss at San Fran.
This sounds like
which
the most
I
lucrative.
think is
This is the most
likely.
lucrative.
Yes.
And the Giants are facing the Vikings this week, which it's a winnable game.
Who's home? Do you know?
I think it's Minnesota.
Yeah.
I can double check though.
Yeah, that's gonna be a big time game for the Giants because a win is not gonna be easy against Minnesota.
The Vikings are at home.